Hi, I'm Kerrie. I'm a psychotherapist by background. I've been working with people with eating disorders for over 20 years now, and I'm the founder and CEO at Ori. Ori is a CQC regulated service based in central London and online, providing support for people who are 13 and above with an eating disorder. The CQC is the Care Quality Commission. They are our regulating body and essentially ensure that we are providing safe, effective care that meets the needs of the people that we are supporting. We are incredibly proud to be an outstanding rated service across all 5 domains. Fair to say, when we got our rating, I cried like a baby because a lot of work went into kind of generating that. Really what it says to us is that we're really considering the people that we work with and ensuring that they stay at the centre of all the care that we provide. There's a lot of stigmas around eating disorders, and I think essentially that's because they are seen as a condition that's around having a beach-ready body. It's about aesthetics, whereas actually they are a much more complex and a much more dangerous condition than that. The sort of stigmas that you hear really are things around it's just a phase, it's something someone will get better from, you know, it's something they'll grow out of, and these things are very difficult because then we're not really recognising the significance and the importance of getting people treatment. And these types of prevailing narratives are problematic because then when somebody presents themselves for help or presents themselves for treatment, they don't get met in the way that they need to be met, right? So someone's not hearing it. You know, if I'm a young male and I'm sat opposite my GP and I'm talking about, you know, concerns that I've got about my body or the fact that I'm restricting my food or I'm using the gym too much, etc., you know, they're not going to think, oh, this person might have an eating disorder. And then we delay them getting into treatment, we delay them getting help, and we know that we need to get people quickly into treatment to get them well. So one of the issues with the stigmas that prevail around eating disorders, if we think that they are the prevail of skinny, white, affluent girls, is we don't see all races, all genders, all ethnicities who are presenting in services. So the services that we do have aren't recognising, for example, how somebody might eat food within their culture, the types of foods that they might eat within their culture. And these things are really at the essence of helping somebody adjust and rebuild that relationship. So there's lots of nuances that we need to be much more sensitive to in order to really recognise everybody. I think the reason stigma exists around eating disorders is complicated, right? I think there's something about the very essence of food. It's our life source. And when that is rejected or when that is used in a way that challenges that kind of norm, I think people have a reaction and a response to it. I spoke to a client once who said that one of the things that they felt was a lot of envy. You know, people would say things to her like, oh, I wish I could get a bit of anorexia. And this sort of, I think, speaks back to the stigma, this idea that it's something you can just pick up and put down, which is really, really disturbing, you know, because you wouldn't say that about any other illness. Oh, I wish I could just have a bit of that. But we do that with eating disorders. And I think this links into the wider sort of societal expectations, how bodies should be, whether it's a male body, whether it's a female body, whether it's a trans body. You know, we have all of these ideals around how these bodies should look, and all of this starts to contribute. I worked with a young trans client who had a really difficult experience with regards to their identity and had spent, you know, many years trying to work through this body that they were living in and inhabiting as they felt it was at the time, and through that process had developed an eating disorder. And when they first came into treatment, one of the real challenges was that as the body started to recover nutritionally, the birth sex of that individual, they felt, became more apparent. And so the eating problem really was there to sort of try and manage that and to help them sort of feel more at home and more at ease, like physically in their body. So there's a lot of complexity when you're sort of working with somebody through those sort of dynamics, through those experiences, to really understand, like, again, what is the purpose and function of this eating disorder? I think most people who have had a diagnosis of an eating disorder will have some experience where they have felt stigmatized as a result of their eating problem. They will have met difficult messages, they will have had difficult things said about them, to them, and also this sort of interesting kind of dynamic where people feel that they have a right, a permission to say something about another person's body uninvited. So I think the majority of people who have had an eating problem would be able to speak to the stigma that they've experienced, sadly. One of the most powerful things, and I can remember it from when we very first opened Ori, and I was really taken aback by it actually. We would bring somebody into the building and show them round so that they can get a sense of the service, and whether that's coming into daycare, whether it's coming into outpatient, just talk them through the experience of being in Ori. And very, very commonly, within 5 or 10 minutes, somebody would cry. They would break down. And I can remember very clearly the first time that it happened, and I was describing what an Ori is. The concept of an Ori being, a place that a shepherd would take their sheep in times of turbulent or stormy weather for shelter. But importantly, an Ori has an opening where somebody can travel freely in and out. So they have agency, they have a choice about whether they come into Ori. And I remember describing this to a client, and they just broke down. They just started to cry and said, I have been looking for a place of shelter. I think the common myths around eating disorders that contribute to eating disorders are that they are a body-based illness. So if we are all preoccupied with what a body should look like, and then we, if you like, make somebody wrong for them wanting their body to look a certain way, that drives that person further into that eating problem, because then they feel shame and they feel embarrassed and they feel like they're a problem and they're getting it wrong again. I was running a group recently and someone was saying it's very hard when you do finally open up and you're met with something that you don't recognise. You get this response to what you've said, which sort of reinforces the reasons that you don't speak in the first place. And I'm a great believer that people don't do this with intention. I don't think people set out to hurt people, but because of all of the things that we hear and the things that we kind of grow up in and around, we do that inadvertently. So I do think it's about individual self-awareness. It's about being reflective and thoughtful and kind in the things that we say about and to each other. If we don't break the stigma around eating disorders, we will not treat eating disorders properly. It's as simple as that for me.